Hey YouTube, this is Eddie's Tech Talk, and today this video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be talking about how OnePlus, the phone manufacturer, went from hero status in most people's minds, and certainly in my mind, to zero status. So, why has OnePlus gone from a company that I liked? It's the best executed notch of any phone that I've seen, including the new iPhones. Absolutely a very, very speedy experience. I want to go over the value that you're getting in this device. Supported for many years and even bought their devices. Why did they go from that to a company that now I can no longer support? Well, this really stems from, and the breaking point for me was this most recent data breach. OnePlus, for those that don't know, had their website breached recently, and information, including mine, was stolen, like email addresses, names, and phone numbers. Now, this might not seem like a big deal. Check out some future Eddie's Tech Talk content as to why data breaches are a big deal. But the data breach was a big deal in the case of these aren't really things that you can change very easily. You can't change your name really easily. You can't change your address. And your phone number, you might think that that's not an important security measure as you move throughout your cyber life. But in fact, it is super important because think about it. You log into your bank. Sometimes they'll text you a code. You log into another service. They'll text you a code for a multi-factor authentication. Well, now if someone else has your device, they can actually number port and take your phone. They can take your device with the other pieces of information that were compromised, like that address, like the name, right? Those pieces of information used to identify you. So OnePlus not only didn't get in front of this, they got in front of it the wrong way. On their website, I believe they said something to the effect of, hey, the worst thing that can happen from this data breach is that our customers might get targeting phishing emails from people pretending to be us. When, as I've just laid out, that's not the case at all. So, yes, they had a data breach. Data breaches happen, but they didn't get out in front of it, and unfortunately, this isn't the first time this has happened to OnePlus. Previously, they had 40,000 credit card records taken from their website via an injected flaw into their website. Now, as a cybersecurity professional, I don't work in that particular area of cybersecurity often, but I have been exposed to the methodologies and the ways that you might implement an attack such as that. And to be quite honest, any company worth its salt, if they have their stuff together, especially on something like a payment page or a payment portal or an account page, they're going to have measures in place to kind of try and stop these attacks. OnePlus obviously did not do enough in that regard. So yes, they make great devices. Yes, they make devices at a great price. But look, I mean, if we just look at the facts here, they're a company that doesn't care about your data. They don't care about my data. And that's just a big problem for me. Compounding onto the fact that this is a Chinese-owned company. I don't want to get super into politics here, but they're a Chinese-owned company, and they're not governed by quite the same laws that some U.S. companies and European companies are governed by. So that's a little concerning, but even more concerning than that is that this company is owned by a company called BBK Electronics. They're a privately held Chinese multinational-owned firm with other phone subsidiaries like Oppo and Vivo. However, no one really knows who owns them. No one really knows who's kind of the man behind the mask, who is the Wizard of Oz in this scenario. So it's interesting to me, you know, they have this data, they have this information on us, they're getting breached, even though they have a backing of this larger company. But even then, that larger company is pretty mysterious. We don't really know what's going on there. So OnePlus, to me, they're a company that has some things right with the consumer, like delivering great features at a great price, but what cost does it come at for you and me? And it seems like that cost is very high. Additionally, when you look at OnePlus phones, they don't focus terribly on security in the software side of the phone. We've gone over how they don't focus on security in their websites, but on the device, they really kind of encourage you to set up Face Unlock, and the Face Unlock on the OnePlus 6T and the OnePlus 7 and 7T Pro and those kinds of things, it's not that secure. It just uses the camera. It can be fooled rather easily, and OnePlus doesn't do a lot in terms of telling users about these risks. Not saying they're the only company that does that, but for a company that already seems to put security very much on the back burner, not a good look. Additionally, they don't have anything inside the device to protect valuable data like your biometrics, like your Face IDs, like your fingerprints, like your passwords. They don't have a separate chip on the device to do this. If you think that's an atypical move, it's not an atypical move. This is something that more and more security experts are recommending, and more companies are rolling out to their users, to their devices. So when you buy a device and you have something valuable like a fingerprint, because think about it, if you put your fingerprint in a phone, that data is now stored on the phone. I mean, obviously there's a lot to it, right? It's a fingerprint, there's a lot of data points there. But if someone were to obtain that data and somehow obtain the fingerprint off of that, obtain the data that equals your fingerprint, let's say, and they're able to use that somewhere else, that is impossible for you to replace. You can't just get a new, right thumb. You can't get a new fingerprint over there. So we're talking about valuable pieces of identity that OnePlus is not protecting on the device, along with other manufacturers, right? But also OnePlus, I want to talk about that. They're not doing it. Samsung is doing this with their Knox security. Apple is doing this with their T2 chips, and Google is doing this with their Titan M chips on their smartphones. They're storing all that valuable data, that very intricate identity pieces that are unique to you and me. They're storing that in a separate chip on the device that is as disconnected as possible from the rest of the phone. So if you get malware, if you have issues, if the software has something like a Trojan in it, some kind of virus, some kind of malware in it, this piece is hopefully disconnected enough from the rest that it's really, really hard, if not impossible, for an attacker to obtain that information. This has actually escalated so much to a point that Google keeps raising the amount of money that they're offering for someone to hack their Titan M chip. So you can see, right, a difference in just philosophy here. Google, Samsung, Apple, they're really focusing on that security piece of the experience. Yes, they have to offer a good phone at a compelling price otherwise, but they're offering a lot in terms of security, and it's a major focus for these companies, especially Apple. We've seen a lot of privacy ads for them recently. OnePlus, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing anything on the device in terms of hardware or software to help increase security. We're not seeing anything from their website, especially in terms of security. They keep saying that they're going to get better. They keep saying that they take customer security seriously, but they've shown time and time again that they are either incapable or they just don't prioritize that high enough to do it. And that is why I can no longer recommend, can no longer buy OnePlus devices. So keep it real, just keeping it real for you guys here. Stay locked to Eddie's Tech Talk. I'm going to focus a little bit more on security in my future content because I, again, work day to day as a cybersecurity professional. So I think that it's important to lend my voice, to lend this to the review space, because we have a lot of reviewers out there, very well-intentioned and very smart, intelligent people that don't quite have the same security background and aren't quite as focused on those features of the device. So they might just recommend the device for the same reasons you always do, right? Great screen, great performance, maybe great price. And I really can't recommend the OnePlus 6T enough. But at what cost does that come at? And oftentimes the answer is our data. This is Eddie's Tech Talk, and I'll see you guys in the next one.